Welcome to the Operations Science Podcast, where the art and science of operational excellence come to life through captivating stories of triumph, challenge, and transformation from the front lines of industry. Our distinguished guests, from manufacturing pioneers and medical device innovators to aerospace visionaries, diagnostic lab leaders, and major capital project leaders, unveil the hidden patterns and powerful insights that drive exceptional results in the complex world of operations. Join us on this journey of discovery as we explore the brilliant minds behind the systems that make our world work and uncover the leadership secrets that could revolutionize your approach to operations forever. This podcast is brought to you by the Operations Science Institute, the home of the science behind every operation. If you want to be a better operations or project leader, discover the principles of operations science for yourself. For a quick tour, visit the OSI Insider portal. The web address is insider.opscience.org. And be sure to check out the new book, Operations Science Applied, available on Amazon. Here is your host, Ed Pound.
Welcome to the Operations Science Podcast. Our next guest is a mechanical engineer with a master's in business administration, a pre-master in industrial engineering, and 18 years of manufacturing experience across outdoor furniture, consumer goods, chemicals, and aluminum, spanning the Middle East, Africa, and beyond. The thread running through all of this guest's convictions are an understanding that most lean programs fail not because the tools are wrong, but because the foundation, the knowledge and capability of the people doing the work is never properly built. And I agree with him. He spent years constructing that foundation systematically, and he's brought the same thinking to curriculum development and work with Egypt's Ministry of Education. Please welcome to the Operations Science Podcast, Abdulrahman Yossri. Hello, Abdulrahman. How are you?
Hello, Edward. Thank you for having me today. I truly appreciate that introduction.
Yes, sir. I think it's a very relevant topic for anybody in operations and particularly continuous improvement. I'm looking forward to the conversation. So let's get started. You work in outdoor furniture, diapers, chemicals, aluminum, and now global consumer goods across multiple countries. Before we get into what you're doing now, I want to start with that career arc. What's the common thread as you've worked across all these different industries and countries? What's the common thread that you see in manufacturing problems and how they work, how people address them, regardless of what the industry is or where you are in the world?
Okay, the most common thing between these different industries almost that the business invests in a lot of machines, a lot of production line, getting a lot of orders, but the big challenge is to get the things run, the things done right first time. So you need to have the right people, the right material, and the right process. And these combine together to give you the right product to the right customer. So the part of the people is one of the important pillars that you have in every single industry everywhere.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And that's really what we're doing with the Operations Science Institute. What we find is people have so many different understandings, and a lot of times they're not correct about how operations behave, what's the underlying science. And the tendency a lot of times is, oh, something's not working right. Let's get new software or let's get new machines. But as I think you found out, a lot of the times is people aren't working properly with because of their understanding and maybe the way they've been trained with what they already have. Your first systematic exposure to lean was in the chemical industry through the TRAC methodology, TRAC. So what is TRAC for our audience, and what made that experience different from what you'd seen before? And then how did you change based on what you saw?
Okay, so TRAC is just an acronym for a famous brand for a lean software and lean methodology that implemented in a lot of companies. So they provided a full solution, and there is many companies they are using the same solution for deploying and implementing the lean principles. So what made my experience with TRAC is truly different is that it challenged something deeper than the process. It challenged how I think about people, problems, and performance. So at that time, working in a multinational environment exposed me to a wide range of cultures and mindsets. And that's where a powerful realization hit me. You don't transform operation by enforcing systems. You transform them by winning people's hearts and minds. Because the real goal is not just better performance, it's creating better and easier life for people. And in very demanding environments, such a manufacturing environment, every day is a battle. There is a lot of breakdowns, urgent fixes, pressure, things that must be solved. And before track, those problems felt like interruptions. But that experience shifted my mindset completely. I started to see something different, something almost counterintuitive. Problems are not the enemy, they are the entry point to improvements. And then I began approaching the daily operation in a new way. Instead of trying to eliminate the deviation, I started to build a culture where the team expects the deviations, accept them, and use them as an opportunity to learn and improve. So I always say we are like troubleshooters. So in a positive way, we are actually need troubles to shoot them. So that shift changed everything. It moved us from reacting to problem to growing because of them. And when that mindset takes hold, continuous improvement stop being a program like track. It start become a part of who we are as a team.
Yeah, I love that. That's one of the things, if you look at the About Us webpage on the Operation Science Institute website, one of the things we say at the very end is people don't come to work to make their life miserable, and they don't try and do things to make things more difficult. They're really a lot of the issues that make so much stress and chaos are because exactly the things you talk about. People, managers treat problems as a problem of the people, but it's actually maybe an understanding, a way to approach. I love the idea of it's troubleshooting. You have to have some trouble to shoot. The way I would look at that in operation science is you have variability, right? Variability is going to happen. Even if your process was working perfectly and you never had any problems, you would still have ranges of variability that you have to respond to. And you could call that trouble or you could call it an opportunity. It's just the way things are. But that's awesome. I love to hear that. So you made a transition from continuous improvement engineer to plant manager at the aluminum company where you worked. What did running a plant teach you that if you just started out as a continuous improvement specialist, you might not have seen?
Okay, this transition, I get a perspective that I still have area to develop. So, as a continuous improvement engineer, my focus was primarily on optimizing specific keys and driving target improvements. However, running a plant exposed me to full end-to-end manufacturing scope. I become responsible for managing multiple functions: operation, maintenance, quality, safety, people. And by that, this broader responsibility showed me how critical it to align the objectives of different teams. So you have the company's overall strategy, and you need to get those team together on that on the same page. So one of the most important lessons I learned that how to integrate diverse team goals into unified vision. As a plant manager, my role shifted from improving isolated process to orchestrating collective performance. So I had to ensure that all teams are working cohesively toward higher level objectives, such as productivity, efficiency, and achieving the business results. I also came to see the effective leadership at the level that it's less about direct problem solving and more about coaching. So plant manager is a coach. He just set the strategy, define the direction, and control the rhythm, but you enable the individual and the team to perform their role effectively. It's not about micromanagement, but is just to understand how to balance between the guidance and the autonomy. So having a full picture allowed me to define a clear strategic boundaries, but also taught me that the importance of giving team the freedom to operate within those boundaries.
Okay, yes, completely agree. I think that's a great summary where you're trying to optimize collective performance. You're not focused on the details. And to do that, your people have to have a common mental model. That's something we work on a lot in operations science. And then the freedom to do that, because you can't make the decisions every day about everything that's going on. That's a valuable insight for anybody who's in continuous improvement. It's about the overall process and getting people to do what they can do best. So when you come into an organization and you're evaluating how it's performing and where maybe the levers for performance, for improving performance, are the most powerful, where do you look?
For me, the having the full picture, as I said, having the big or the high level KPIs or targets for the team, and then you start to cascade them for each group and for each team. So you have a big, let us say, big KPI of delivering the orders on time. So delivering orders means you have the machine ready to run, and this is we can translate it into availability for the maintenance team, and we can translate it in performance or productivity for the production team. And we need to have good repetition in this in the market, so it's like the right first time rate for the quality team and so on. So it starts from the high level KPIs, high level targets, and then you start cascade them for each team. And in the same way, you make sure that you have the cross linking between the KPIs. So you avoid having the teams working in the silos and have them working together for the same shared target.
Yeah, so many times we see that people have different mental models, and even managers set up KPIs that might actually conflict with each other. And it's very important to get that aligned. A little bit different. You described a learning development framework in sort of four levels. Describe that for me and how you evaluate people and walk them through that process.
I believe that the learning and development, as I said, it's part of the people management, and the people are the middle piece of the improvement. So why is the learning and development is important? So let me explain it in a very simple analogy. So imagine someone driving a car for the very first time, but no training, no understanding of the traffic rules, zero knowledge about the basic things like the tire pressure, engine temperature, the braking distance. And that guy, he has the best car in the world, top performance, the best engine, the best technology, everything is perfect. So what's happening? Most likely it will end up with a disaster. Hopefully, he will not hit someone. So the problem is not the machine, not the production line, not the technology. The problem is the capability of the person who using them. The same applies in the manufacturing. So you can have the world-class equipment, well-designed process, the ambitious performance target, but the people are not properly trained. So they are not understanding the operating procedure. There is a lack of technical and problem-solving capabilities. Definitely, the system will fail. So that's why I strongly believe the capability building is the foundation of the lean pillars. When the capability is weak, the system will break in four areas, such as safety, because the people don't understand what are the risks and how to control them. they will fail in quality because the standards are either misunderstood or not fully followed. The stability, because the operators cannot detect the abnormalities early, respond them correctly. And the sustainability of the improvement, because it depends on the individuals, not on the well-structured skill scheme. So everything will start to collapse. Continuous improvement will become like superficial, and the problem solvings become reactive instead of having a structured program. And the standard will exist, but on the paper, not on the practice. And leadership spends the time firefighting instead of the development organization. So when the capability development is strong, people will understand why, not just what to do. And the standard will be owned, not enforced. The problem will be solved at the right level, and the team will become driven with a clear strategic boundaries. That's when the lean truly works. So for me, capability building is not just a pillar, it's the enabler for all other lean pillars. Without it, lean will become like a set of tools, not a sustainable performance system.
Yeah. So you mentioned, but 4 development levels. What are those 4 levels?
Usually, I break the plan into 4 levels. So the first level is the beginner. The beginner, where the people just onboarded, maybe have a toolbox talk, just attended an awareness session. So he have just an introductory idea about the topic. And then we move to level 2, where we have the person in a trainee phase. So the person start to have a structured training. This may include classroom training or on the job training, job shadowing, or a guided assessment. And the method we select depends on the criticality of the skill itself. For instance, for safety and high risk tasks, it's mandatory to have a supervision. But for the basic skills, maybe we can rely on classroom training. And then we move to level 3. The level 3, where we get the person is trained and qualified. And in this area, we have the certification stage. So the individual must pass a formal assessment, could be a test, could be a practical evaluation, a kind of supervisor appraisal, and we compare the result with the relevant SOP that describe the skills. So if the person pass the exam, we allow him to perform the task independently. So in level 4, what we call it like a trainer. Not everyone at level 3 need to become a trainer, but to reach level 4, the individual must demonstrate a sustained performance, deeper understanding, and ability to teach others. So they also go through a preparation to build a training and coaching skills. In practice, a healthy organization has most people between level 2 and level 3, learning and performing. Few are in level 1. Those are the new joiners or the newcomers, and selective group at level 4 as a trainers. So this structure ensures not only the skills development, but also the sustainability for having new people get trained and performing better and individually.
That's great. That sounds exactly what we do with Operation Science. We will certify trainers, but to your point, not everybody needs to be a trainer. It's important to have those level 4 people, because what that does is it means that you can sustain your framework over time, right? Because people come and people go, but you need to have somebody who has the expertise to train new people and bring them on board. I love that. The other thing I really liked was your driving a car analogy. Absolutely. You know, you can put the smartest person in the world into a car, but if they have no idea about how the thing works, They might drive it into a tree or something, but they need to understand it. I think that's a great analogy. So then when you come into a new job, have you got an assessment framework where you go through and you assess the organization and what level different people are at? Or how does that work when you're coming into a new organization?
So usually I starting my journey with the new organization by having one-on-one meetings with every single operator and supervisor in the production and the shop floor. I meet them. I start to understand their backgrounds, about their families, about their issues, what they are doing, and what did they do before, and start to do a technical assessment for each single competency or skill that I need to assess. So I have a profile for every and each single person in the organization. And then I start allocating the right resource in the right place and put a development plan for others they need to develop. And it's kind of assessing where we are and what kind of development and improvement we need to do and how much investment we need to put in the people.
Yeah, so that sounds like a repeatable framework.
Yes. And by the way, I applied it several times in different places and it works.
Oh, no, I would agree with you. I've done the same thing. It sounds like I think that's a great framework for anybody to look at in any organization. So you mentioned you're volunteering for the Ministry of Education in Egypt. You've worked across different countries in the Middle East and Africa. Do you find that approach is well received by management, or is it something that you have to convince them to adopt? What's your experience been in that area, in that approach?
Actually, being in the role of like a production manager or a plant manager, you have the full freedom to reach out the team. And this is your responsibility, by the way. You need to know your team. You like, again, you like a coach. And it doesn't make sense that a coach doesn't know his team and understand the background of every single one, every single member in the team. So it's not something related to the aligning with the management. It's more about understanding your team and build a good relationship with them and start to know where is the skill gap that you need to address so you can act accordingly.
Yeah. So one of the challenges you mentioned is getting qualified, capable technicians and operators. You've been working in the Middle East and Africa. I can tell you this is the same challenge in the United States and other countries where I've worked in. Do you see that the challenge is mainly driven because of, is it the education pipeline? People aren't being trained properly before they step into a job. They don't understand these concepts. Is it a problem because there's a lot of turnover? Or is it something just in the way management is set up in a company, structural challenges, or could be a combination of all three, but what's the most prevalent?
I believe it's a combination of a group of factors, not just one root cause. Yes, one of them is the education pipeline gap. But in many cases, you can find the education system is still too theoretical. Graduates have the knowledge, but don't have the enough hands-on shop floor ready skills. So companies must bridge that gap. The other challenge is the turnover and the mobility. In the market, there is a strong demand for a skilled technician. And once the people become more capable, they potentially move. This creates a cycle of continuous capability rebuilding. And that's why we need to have always the trainers in our pipeline so we can improve and generate more skills and talents. The third point is the rapid growth and expansion and the technology acceleration. So, industries in the Middle East and Africa are growing quickly. A lot of new plants, a lot of new production lines, and at the same time, there is a fast adoption of advanced technology. You see the AI transformation, the new digital factories, the Industry 4.0. This stuff means that the skill requirement need to be faster than the talent supply and increasing the gap capability. That takes us also to the fourth challenge, which is the economic dynamics of the emerging markets. So, in emerging economies, people actively seek for better opportunities to improve their income and living standards. That drives high mobility and makes retention is more challenging. So, as a result, organizations don't need to just hire a talent, they need to develop it from the ground up, acting almost like a training academy. So the challenge is not the lack of the potential, but I believe there is a strong talent and real hunger to learn in the Middle East and Africa region. The reality is that the companies need to continuously build and upgrade the capabilities and keep pacing with both growth and technological changes.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I love that idea that companies should think of themselves as training academies. There's another aspect that I've seen in actually working with a client now where they are really good about treating their employees well. So this place, I was surprised at how many people they had who had been there for a long time. And mainly it was because, yeah, they could go somewhere else and maybe make a little bit more money. But the point was the company treated them well, it trained them well. And that's another way to make sure you're always going to have to do training, but you don't want to have to set up your companies. Yeah, you can train people, but nobody wants to stay with your company. And so that's an important aspect. Also, do you see examples of companies that maybe don't need to train so much because they treat their employees well?
I don't have something in top of my mind now, but the idea usually or the theory says that when you train someone and give them a new skill and new knowledge, actually he will owe you this credit because he start feeling better. Remember, our objective is to acquire the people hearts and mind, and one of the way to get into people hearts and mind is to give them something new, which is a new skill, a new talent, a new challenge, and this always comes with a new position or new role in the production or in the operations. So he feels better because he learned something new and he start to get new exposure to new processes or new technologies or new challenges.
Yeah, indeed. We talk about that in our new book, Operation Science Applied. It's a very short chapter on people because there's so much written about how to motivate people. But a key thing that motivates people is self-determination, them being able to one, to build their skills. So that's another thing. As you mentioned, when you train people, you set up an implied like, well, I've invested in you. And so you should consider the fact that I treat you as a fully capable human being and am willing to invest in your effort. If they've built the skills, then they don't have to be told what to do. And people like that. They like knowing that they have mastery of their job and they can use their own initiative and intelligence to make decisions. Yeah, I completely agree with you on that. Do you find when you're doing your volunteer work with the Ministry of Education, that's something that the government is trying to put forth also?
This part, I truly love this part of my profession. So actually, it started from a very simple question. I asked myself, why do we spend so much time fixing the capability gaps in the plant instead of preventing them before the people join the company? So, through my work, I kept seeing the same pattern. Smart, motivated people come in, but they struggle not because they lack potential, but because they were never taught how to think, how to apply, and how to connect knowledge to real work. So that's what pushed me to get involved in that program. When we apply the same learning architecture in the education, linking the knowledge, the competencies, and the skills, it reveals something very clear that the breakdowns is not in the intelligence, it's in the translation from the theory to the practice. Students learn what? but not how to use it. They pass the exam, obviously, but they are not ready to perform. So it becomes emotional for me because we realize that the gap we struggle in the industry start much earlier, and the effort that the companies spend on rebuilding the capability could be reduced in the foundation or maybe become more effective. So for me, it's one connected system. If we want better performance in factories, we need to start earlier by building people who don't just carry the knowledge but know how to apply it, how to think with it, and how to grow from it.
Yeah, indeed. And that's the whole mission of the Operations Science Institute. As I mentioned, there's just so much confusion out there about the underlying behavior, whether you're doing lean or Six Sigma or whatever. And to your point, people understand the science, how to apply it. You can just stand back and watch them go. And maybe, as you mentioned, you're just coaching them. You're not really directing them. You're not a football team. You're not out there on the pitch telling the player what to do. You've worked with them to understand what the strategy is, and you watch them execute. So it's great insight. And I think it's just so important for any manager to understand and apply that approach. One more question on work related topics. So tell me, and I have to ask this for everybody because it's so prevalent. What do you see in terms of the effects of artificial intelligence in your approach? Have you been applying large learning models to what you're doing? What are you seeing?
Honestly, and this is my personal belief, that the artificial intelligence is just a tool that expedite and improve the quality and the quantity of the work is done. So usually I compare the AI with the calculator. So if you have a math equation and you need to calculate, you have two options: do it mentally and use the calculator. You can use the calculator, but you cannot use the calculator until you understand it mentally. So you need to understand the background first and then use the calculator. You need to understand what you are doing first and then use the AI tools. You cannot rely 100% on the AI tool, but you cannot neglect them.
Yeah, you better not.
Yes. So you need to have the basic foundation for everything, understand it very well, and then start to use the AI to improve your productivity, improve the quality. So, in my thesis of having the learning and capability model, I start to use the AI just to prepare the list of skills. But I cannot have the list of skills until I understand what these skills deliver in terms of competencies. So, using the AI support and help everyone to improve the productivity, but do not rely 100% on AI. You need to understand first the thing that you are going to do.
Yep, indeed. It's for me personally, it's been a huge productivity increaser because it helps me do stuff that would have taken me hours to do before. And now I take some results and I just ask for an initial summary, but I don't use that summary and just send it off to somebody. You have to review it and make sure to take out all the mistakes because there will always be mistakes. But to your point, you have to understand the underlying goals and behavior before you can use AI appropriately. You should never trust anything that it just generates on its own, but it can be very powerful, definitely. All right, so let's switch topics and talk about Abdulrahman, the man. Where did you grow up and what was your childhood like?
Actually, I born in UAE in Abu Dhabi, and I lived there like 12 years with my family, and then I moved to Egypt. I spent like 12 years in UAE, and then the rest of my life I based in Egypt. However, during the last period, I travel here and there, but my country is Egypt. And the early transition and the early movement between Egypt and Abu Dhabi exposed me to different culture, and that gave me a different way of thinking, which really shaped my ability to adapt and understand a diverse mindsets. From young age, I grew up in an environment that emphasizes the education, the discipline, and responsibility. So nothing come easy, and you need to work hard to get everything. So that built a strong mindset of pushing myself toward learning and continuously improvement myself. At the same time, I consider myself as a naturally curious. I always wanted to understand how the things work, not just accept them as they are. And that curiosity stayed with me and later became a big part of how I approached the engineering and the continuous improvement.
So were your parents engineers or in technical fields? Were they early influences? What were some of your early influences?
No, they weren't engineers, but actually, the mindset of my father as a businessman, he shaped my personality to work hard to get the result and not wait and get the result ready with no effort.
Okay. All right. The last question. It's been a great conversation. I've really enjoyed it. I think there's a lot of really helpful information, rules to live by, basically, when you're working in continuous improvement. But outside of work, what do you do to relax? Are there any particular hobbies or sports that you like?
Actually, my favorite sport is swimming. I used to go swimming 3 times a week. But recently, with the too many travels, it's very challenging to keep the frequency. But I'm trying to have my special time for going swimming. And also, one of my favorite hobbies and habit, by the way, is the reading. So I spend at least between 20 to 30 minutes every day reading, learning something new. So that give me a bit of self-satisfaction that you get every single day something new. You learn something and you understand new thing in the world.
Definitely. So, is there a favorite book that you would recommend?
In terms of business and operation, there was a book called Scaling Up. And this book, one of the interesting books that helps people, those own business, to move from the startup phase to being a big corporate. It's a tough journey to move from a very small scale business to a big scale business. There is a lot of challenges. There is a lot of techniques to handle the people and the conflicts. This very one of the most interesting books I ever read.
Excellent. All right. Listen, Abdulrahman, thank you so much for being on the podcast. It's been a great conversation. I think anybody should consider those 4 levels of professional development. I think that's so important. I think you nailed it. You really have to make sure that your people have the operations capability and win their minds and hearts. So that's so important. So thank you for being on the podcast, and let's keep in touch.
Thank you, Edward. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure. And I'm happy to answer any question from the audience. If they have anything in their mind came up after this podcast, I'm happy to answer the question and they are welcome to reach out to me.
That sounds great. Thank you, Abdulrahman. If people do want to reach out to you, they can send me a note to info@opscience.org, and I'll make sure you get connected.
Yeah, definitely, yes.
All right. Thanks. Take care.
Thank you.
The Operations Science podcast requires more than a conversation. It takes action, research, and collective wisdom. If today's episode resonated with you, we'd love to hear your insights. Join the conversation and help us shape the future together. Join the Operations Science Institute at opscience.org. We'll be back with more stories, strategies, and real-world solutions that are making a difference for everyone. In the meantime, be sure to subscribe, rate, write a review, and share it with someone you think would benefit from it too. Thanks for listening, and see you on the next episode. The views expressed by our guests are their own and do not represent their company's views unless specifically stated as such.